A young expecting mother, a week overdue, is scheduled to be induced into labor, and yet as the clock ticks past the time of her appointment, she fails to show up. A frantic search begins, and her loved ones set out to check every local hospital. Then the first clue emerges out of nowhere, and police in a small Texas suburb of San Antonio begin to wonder if the entire thing is an inside job. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the true crime author of close to 50 books. I've dedicated the past 20 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. Dexter County in southern Texas is not one of the more well-known counties in the Lone Star State, though the county seat is San Antonio. Leon Valley, with a population of about 11,000 people, encompasses just 3.4 square miles on the northwestern side of San Antonio. On December 23, 2023, 18-year-old Savannah Nicole Soto is scheduled to show up at the hospital and be induced into labor to give birth to her first child. The father is her 22-year-old boyfriend, Matthew Guerra. Savannah is about a week past her due date. Both Savannah and Guerra have that adolescent and maybe even naive look of youth entering what is a very adult world. Matthew Guerra, according to friends and family, has had his share of legal problems in the past, but the birth of his child has said to have made him realize that it might be time for him to step up and become an adult. There is something glorious and magic about a woman expecting a child, and no love like that of a mother for her children. Savannah is beaming. She has brown hair stylishly curled and flowing down past her shoulders. She is a tiny little thing. In a photo of Savannah and Guerra standing together, arm in arm, the top of Savannah's head barely reaches his shoulder. Savannah's mother is seriously concerned for her daughter as the morning passes and afternoon comes. Regarding the relationship between the two kids, she's wanted Savannah to dump the boy for quite a while now. He is trouble, she told her daughter many times. But Savannah is hard-headed, stubborn, a teen who insists on making her own decisions. And Guerra is, after all, the father of her child. She needs to, at least, try to make things work. There had been a disagreement about the idea of Savannah's mother being inside the delivery room when her daughter gives birth. She expressed her desire to be there for the special moment, but Guerra vehemently disagreed and demanded she not show up. One of the major issues for Savannah's family is Guerra's criminal history and an assault charge involving Savannah the previous year. The boy, they are convinced, will not change, and Savannah is better off by herself, raising the child on her own. As a couple, the past several months had gone okay, according to Guerra's family members. They are living together and seem to be focusing on the idea of becoming parents. Reportedly, they had already chosen the name Fabian for the child. Savannah had been counting the days until her baby arrives, so excited to be a mother and raise a family. And yet, here it is on the day she is scheduled to show up at the hospital, and nobody can find her. On that day, Savannah misses her appointment. Savannah's mother and other family members begin calling her. The last time anyone saw Savannah was on that Friday, December 22nd, the previous day, at her apartment. Where could she possibly be? Savannah had been looking forward to this day for 9 months, could not stop talking about it. Worried and not wanting to wait for any sort of police investigation to get started, Savannah's family start calling around and visiting area hospitals, checking if Savannah went into labor and had to be rushed to the closest clinic or hospital. It kind of makes sense. She is, again, a week overdue. It's more than likely that she had gone into labor on her own. By early evening, Leon Valley police open a formal missing person case and are now actively searching for Savannah. And yet, as it happens, Matthew Guerra is also nowhere to be found. Both families have been blowing up his phone as well, but have been unable to reach him. The following day, with still no word from either Guerra or Savannah, police released details of the case to the local media. They specifically mentioned that Guerra drives a 2013 gray Kia Optima. If anyone sees this vehicle, they need to call it in immediately. The idea being, find Guerra's car, find Guerra and Savannah. Had Guerra panicked and decided he didn't want to become a father? Unfortunately, police have to consider murder-suicide. Though rare, it is a crime that affects communities, and with a pregnant woman involved, the numbers go significantly up. What's alarming is a study published in 2021 by the Journal of Women's Health. Pregnant women are 5 times more likely to be victims of homicide than non-pregnant women who die by violent means. 5 times. And 20%, 1 in 5 of women who die during pregnancy are victims of murder. Harvard School of Public Health reports homicide as the leading cause of death for pregnant women in the United States. These stats are remarkable. Think about all that can go wrong during a pregnancy and when a mother gives birth. And the biggest concern expecting mothers face is that they will be murdered? I'm appalled by this information. It tells me that certain types of men have no clue how to deal with their significant other being pregnant other than to respond by taking their life? Please. Because remember, these homicides aren't random. They are committed by those closest to the pregnant female, namely a spouse or boyfriend. So we have a problem in this country with men and anger and violence toward pregnant women. And here, in Savannah's case, that is what everyone is thinking, whether they are publicly sharing this concern or not. Days go by and nobody can find Savannah or Matthew Guerra. It's as if they packed it in and left town. No area hospitals or clinics have a record of Savannah being admitted to give birth. But 3 days after Savannah misses her appointment to be induced into labor, her family receives a call. Someone had seen the media report of Matthew Guerra's car and believe they've spotted it. A resident at an apartment complex on Danny K. Drive in San Antonio, in the Village at Rustic Oaks section of town, not far from a nearby medical center, messages one of Savannah's family members. The tipster reports that a car fitting the description the police gave is parked at the apartment complex, and it's not a car this person has ever seen before. The family gets into their own vehicles and rushes over to the apartment complex after calling the Leon Valley Police to let them know. Leon Valley Police are already on scene when they arrive. An officer holds the family back as another officer walks slowly toward the vehicle to have a look. Think about how many different scenarios must be flooding the minds of family members. How frantic and worried they are becoming by the minute, by the second. The license plate number on the vehicle matches Guerra's, so they know for a fact it's his car. But where is Savannah? Where is Matthew Guerra? Approaching the vehicle, the officer notices 2 people inside. He stops, calls into the San Antonio police and describes what they have. San Antonio is the jurisdiction, so Leon Valley is told to hold up upon entering the vehicle. They need to obtain a warrant first. These are murky legal waters. Probable cause to enter the vehicle is absolute, obviously. In the front seat is Savannah, and she is dead, with some sort of trauma to her head. In the back seat is a male, and they can tell it's Matthew Guerra. Those initial theories of murder-suicide seem to be spot on. The scene has that feeling. It appears, however, the responding officer writes in his affidavit that Guerra has a gunshot wound to his head and has been dragged into the vehicle. But from his vantage point, looking in through the car windows, the officer cannot see a weapon. What does this mean? Let's take a break here. If you have been thinking about where this case is going, I can tell you, it's likely not what you think. Please subscribe to Crossing the Line wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to leave a review of the show, especially on Apple Podcasts. I'm doing this show independently now, free from any corporate or big podcasting media company involvement, which allows me to bring you more of the content you want to hear and have asked me for. This is completely our show. Reviews and subscriptions really help. You are my public relations and social media team now, and without your help, I could not do this. And that support, I must tell you, means everything. It's incredibly humbling. And I want to thank each one of you for listening. We can grow this show together, which will allow me to do even bigger things with it. If you go to crossingtheline.biz or mwilliamphelps.com, you can contact me there to suggest cases or just say hello. And look for me across all social media platforms at M. Phelps. That's the @ symbol in my name, M. William Phelps. Be right back after a short commercial break. Murder seems to be the only choice these days for some to resolve disputes, get back at others for whatever reason, not face failures in life, or simply allow rage and hatred to take over. It feels like there is an epidemic of murder on our streets. More murder today than ever. But that is a misconception and result of how much murder reporting is going on today. True crime, you and I know, is more popular now than at any other time in history. But murder rates and violent crime in the United States are far from what they were 25 years ago. Though murder might be on the increase as we speak, it is still at a rate of about 50% less than what it was in the 80s, 90s, and even into the early 2000s. This case I am featuring this week lends itself to how violent crime and murder are often more than not connected to other issues plaguing our country today, which are on the rise. And I will touch upon that a bit more soon. While those officers were waiting for that search warrant to come through and the San Antonio Investigative Unit to arrive, they start speaking to family members of both Savannah and Guerra on scene. Of course, everyone is thinking murder-suicide, that Guerra, perhaps under pressure of becoming a father, snapped and killed Savannah and then took his own life. Family members on both sides explained to Leon Valley police officers on scene that it's no secret Guerra has at times sold drugs to make ends meet, and that he uses social media, in fact, as a way to run that business. He also posts photos of the money he makes and even some of the drugs he sells on his social media accounts. He had even been shot once before. After obtaining that search warrant and getting inside Guerra's vehicle, it's clear that both Savannah and Guerra have been shot in the head. It's a gruesome, terribly sad scene. Both had been dead for several days. There is no chance the baby is alive. So it is now a triple murder. Several spent shell casings are found inside the vehicle. But police still cannot find a weapon. Which tells them what? It is unlikely a murder-suicide they are looking at. There is also blood found outside of the vehicle. And Guerra's body shows signs of him being dragged on the pavement. The consensus is that both were murdered at a different location in the vehicle driven to the apartment complex and left with their bodies inside of it. Now, lots of you have listened to this show consistently, and I am so grateful for that. Based on previous episodes and what I sometimes talk about, what would you do first in this case as an investigator? Cell phone data will take time to come in, but good guess if that's where you went. Think about the murder location. That's the answer. Check to see if there are any CCTV security cameras in the area of the parking lot. And if there are, you will likely find video of your killer or killers dropping the car off at that parking lot. Investigators go directly to the apartment complex management, and to their delight, they do have cameras, and lo and behold, they are working. So they pull the video from the past 3 days and begin combing through it. It was back on December 21st, 1 minute before midnight, when a Chevy Silverado, gray, driving with its lights off, drives by Matthew Guerra's car, which is parked in the spot where it was found. That truck pulls up nearby and parks. Guerra's vehicle then backs out and approaches the truck. A very large male then steps out of the truck as Guerra's driver's side door opens. The large man and the man who got out of Matthew Guerra's vehicle then begin to talk. After a few minutes, the large man grabs a towel from his vehicle and wipes down the door of Guerra's car. Both get back into the vehicles and begin driving, the truck following Guerra's car, which is then parked back in the spot where it was ultimately found. Both Guerra and Savannah were already dead at this point, investigators believe, and the two men, allegedly their killers, were cleaning up the scene and parking Guerra's vehicle. Now, let's go back to what I said earlier about generally the first line of inquiry investigators take in any homicide: cell phone data. It's almost a certainty that Guerra communicated with his killers if they had set him up to be robbed, which is a solid theory and likely motive here. Though the worst thing an investigator can do in any homicide investigation this early into it is assume anything and write off anything. Assumptions are almost always wrong. People are unpredictable in general. Add murder into the equation and things can become even more random. You have to allow the evidence to guide you, of course, using your gut along the way, but making sure to leave any scenario open until you know what happened. By January 3rd, 2024, the data from Guerra's phone is already back and investigators are combing through it carefully. The answer is in there. They know this. There will be data detailing where Guerra went, addresses, times, dates, etc. So they pull that data and turn out a map of his movements leading up until the time of his death. Why murderers do not take the phones of their victims, I will never know. But then again, people who commit murder are not that fucking smart. We tend to think they are sometimes because of the treatments on true crime television, but in the end, most are dumb as a bag of rocks. Charlie Chan Drive, just a few blocks southwest of where Guerra's car is found in the parking lot of that apartment complex, is a known drug dealing area. All the cops in the region know of Charlie Chan Drive, and many have sources embedded in the neighborhood. And they also know that not many in the drug game are willing to go down for a double murder, arguably a triple murder here, if they are not directly involved. And so gathering intel is not going to be difficult. Investigators get an exact address where Guerra's phone pinged right before the phone moved onto Danny K. Drive and that apartment building parking lot. Now, they already have the truck on video with those two males conversing near it. A cross-check of the address they now have and the vehicles match that address. Everything fits together. So now they have a name. Cops go to the house and bring Ramon Presido and his son Christopher Presido into the station house. They separate them. Christopher, the son, says yes, he saw Guerra that night. Guerra came to his house to sell him some weed. As they were doing the deal, Christopher claims, Guerra brandished a weapon and pointed it at him. But, he says, he was able to manipulate the weapon from Guerra during a struggle. And as he was fighting with Guerra, the gun went off and, by accident, the bullet struck Savannah in the head. How about that? It was an accident. Well then, if so, how in the hell did Guerra wind up getting shot in the head too? Investigators wonder. Presido has the answer, he says. Guerra was able to grab hold of the gun a second time after Savannah was shot, and so they fought again, and the weapon discharged a second time, and you know what? Accidentally shot Guerra in the head. So both times, both shots accidentally went off and hit both victims square in the head. What are the chances? These investigators, I am certain, do all they can not to laugh out loud at what is an absurd story that in no way matches the evidence left behind. During the interviews with Christopher and his father, another name comes up. Marta Romanos, the actual owner of the home on Charlie Chan Drive, Christopher's stepmother. They then bring her in. Sleeping, she says. I have no idea what happened that night. Evidence collected inside the Charlie Chan address, however, tells a completely different story. I'll get to that and wrap this case up right after a final short break. When I see senseless, unprovoked, straight-up violence, especially murder, when innocent people, and in this case, an unborn child, are involved, it gets me emotional and angry. My brother's wife was 5 months pregnant when she was strangled to death. Her case remains unsolved, though it is now no secret what happened and who is responsible. I'll not get into that here, but I thought it was worth mentioning, because this case in many ways has a personal connection. So when I come across a case like this, I feel an almost obligation to tell Savannah's story, because here is a woman, all of 18, her first child on the way, due any minute, and she is murdered because 3 scumbags decided they were going to deal with whatever issues were going on in their lives at the time with violence. They knew this girl was pregnant. They knew she was a child herself. Yet they took it upon themselves to put a round in the back of her head. Why? For some dope money? Because maybe she saw them kill her boyfriend? Are you fucking kidding me here? What we see is the devaluation of human life more and more every day. I mean, I go on X, for example, and the hatred and the violence perpetrated towards people is just palpable. It's everywhere. Anyway, the gun used to kill Guerra and Savannah is found inside Marta Romanos' bedroom. It's her weapon. Ballistics have by now proven that the bullets at the crime scene match that weapon. But she was, if you recall, sleeping at the time of a double murder inside her house. 2 rounds going off inside her house never woke her up, apparently. Additional surveillance footage San Antonio investigators get hold of actually shows Marta driving away from the apartment complex crime scene after dumping both bodies in the parking lot inside the car. So she is a part of cleaning up this murder. No doubt about it. They have her on video. As it turns out, Christopher, the son, murdered Savannah and Guerra in cold blood over a weed deal gone bad, according to what he later explains. Can you imagine? A weed deal. Marijuana. Not pounds of cocaine or fentanyl or heroin, but a drug that is legal in many states now. Ramon Presido and Marta Romanos are both arrested and charged with several felonies. Abuse of a corpse, altering, destroying, concealing a human corpse, and tampering with evidence. Marta hid her weapon inside her bedroom, hoping cops would never find it. Christopher, the son, is charged with 3 counts of capital murder, one of which includes the murder of a child under 10 years old, Savannah's baby. Christopher is 19 years old. He has very long black hair down past his shoulders and wears these dark, black-framed glasses with tinted lenses. He has one of those Backstreet Boys, thin beards, no mustache. He thinks he's a badass, but this badass, however, could face death by lethal injection if found guilty and sentenced to death. And this is Texas, so enough said about how they carry out their sentences there. Christopher's trial was supposed to begin on May 20th, 2024, but was postponed. My guess is a plea deal is in the works. There is more evidence here than needed to convict this kid of a triple murder. There ain't no jury in Texas gonna acquit this kid after what he did to Savannah and her child. Savannah's mother, Gloria Cordova, told CBS News that her daughter was like a mini-mom who was looking forward to motherhood. She was like my backbone. She's the one that kept me going. I don't want to believe that she's gone. It hurts too much. She was my only daughter. All murder cases affect me differently. But this one, killing that 18-year-old woman and her child like that when she is moments away from giving birth, it struck me as one of the more cold and callous murders I have seen in a long time. Look, you murder a pregnant woman, you go directly to hell and rot without passing go. No question about it. That's just the way I feel. Remember, I need your help. Please subscribe to Crossing the Line wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget, leave a review of the show, especially on Apple Podcasts, and log on to crossingtheline.biz or mwilliamphelps.com to contact me and suggest cases, or just say hi. And look for me across all social media platforms using the @ symbol and my name, M. William Phelps. Thank you for supporting this show. I am allowed to do it because of you, and that truly means more to me than I can say. Be safe, be aware, and don't forget to tell someone about us. Big stuff is coming to CTL. I promise you that. You are going to love what I have planned for the future. Sources for today's episode include: woman accused of hiding evidence in murders gets significant reduction in bond. Dylan Collier. KSAT News Investigates. February 9th, 2024. Affidavit for arrest warrant, Christopher Presido. Affidavit for arrest warrant, Marta Romanos. CTL is produced by M. William Phelps, LLC. Written and executive produced by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.